Cannabinoids, sometimes called cannabinoids, are a diverse class of chemical compounds that interact with cannabinoid receptors throughout the body and brain of you to produce biological effects. There are three main categories when classifying cannabinoids. The first is endocannabinoids, or cannabinoids that come from inside of us. Some examples of this are anandamide, the bliss molecule, and 2-AG. Phytocannabinoids derived from the cannabis plant, like CBN and THC, also behave similarly to endocannabinoids. Lastly, a third class of cannabinoids can be defined as synthetic cannabinoids. These are man-made molecules created by pharmaceutical companies in an attempt to develop drugs. Endocannabinoids are lipid-based neurotransmitters, and they behave similarly to what you think of for phytocannabinoids, but they're actually produced within your body. And you learned all about these endocannabinoids in Module 5. Phytocannabinoids, like THC, stimulate CB1 and CB2 receptors in the body and have their biological effects. It's the activation of the CB1 receptors in the brain that leads to the classical THC-induced high that many of us know and love. CBD, on the other hand, has very different effects than THC, often serving almost an opposing role of THC. This is why combining THC and CBD together, we get a much more balanced experience. Unlike THC, CBD does not strongly interact with the CB1 and CB2 receptors. Additionally, there are also synthetic cannabinoids. Dozens have been developed in order to help pharmacologic studies and help pharmacy companies explore drug development. But these synthetic cannabinoids usually stimulate cannabinoid receptors much more effectively than THC. Might sound like a good thing, but can often lead to intense and sometimes dangerous side effects. These side effects include cardiac events like heart attack and stroke, serious bouts of paranoia or psychosis, kidney damage, and much more. Unfortunately, synthetic cannabinoids have made it into head shops and gas stations, often masquerading as incense. This type of synthetic cannabinoid product is most commonly called spice or K2, but really can go by any name and is typically an herb sprayed with a synthetic cannabinoid. It's near impossible to know which synthetic cannabinoid is in these products, and there are dozens of them. It's highly advised to avoid products made out of synthetic cannabinoids due to quality control standards and the untested nature of these products. Opt for good old herb. It's also important to remind you that our body's response to cannabis is not just driven by the cannabinoids we're taking, but also dictated by our unique endocannabinoid systems and genetic makeup. These can all affect the way we respond to cannabis. Cannabis will never be a one-size-fits-all medicine, but instead, your journey in cannabis is a process of mindful trial and error, oftentimes with a few munchies on the side. Now that we've reviewed cannabinoids in general, our next lesson will cover specific cannabinoids from the cannabis plant and what they do in the body.